It is hard to believe that it is actually 3 years since I was here photographing this scene in autumn conditions. Now we have got the first snow of the winter and the scene just looks gorgeous. So I've brought out my Hasselblad X2D and I have put on the long prime lens with the extender. So I'm shooting at something equal to about 180 millimeter, I think. And as you can see, I'm photographing the small house, yellow house there in the background. And you can see how the light is just hitting that roof, making it stand out in the winter forest. I have also put on a 10-stop filter, brand new JetMag Pro from Nisi Filter. Really nice filters, seem to work well. With the 10-stop filter and ISO 64 f13, underexposing a little bit just so I'm not blowing out that snow, I'm getting a shutter speed of about 34 seconds. So this week's video is all about white balance, and to some degree white balance is important, but it's just something I don't really care much about. Now the reason why I can have that attitude towards white balance is because I shoot in RAW format. If you shoot JPEGs, it is very important to care about your white balance, because when you shoot RAW, then you capture all the information in the scene and you can change the white balance afterwards. That's the main reason. Ooh, bird. That's the main reason why I do not care about white balance, because I can change it afterwards. But shooting JPEG, it will not be the same result. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. However, you can see right here, I'm actually in auto white balance right there. And you can change between all sorts of different white balances. So if we turn on the menu and we click there, you can see there I have all sorts of different white balances that I can choose between: cloudy, shade, daylight, tungsten, fluorescent, flash, manual, and I can even pick up colors with this camera here. So all these different white balances are simply there so you can compensate for the color of the light in your scene, so that white is neutral white, so it's not turned towards blue or not turned towards a warmer color like red or yellow. On a day like this, where I actually have a blue sky, I have the sun up here behind me, yet I'm also standing in a forest. So should I choose shade or should I choose daylight? That's a good question. So over the years, my preferred way of approaching white balance is simply just to choose the one that is the most like the scene I'm photographing in. So since it's daylight today, I would choose daylight. Or if I'm in shade, the sun has gone down or something like that, I would choose shade. If it's cloudy, then I would choose cloudy. In that way, the immediate feedback I get from the photo that I take will be somewhat close to the final result. That said, on a day like this, you can also just choose auto white balance. However, that does come with some downsides. So the downsides to having it in auto white balance can, as an example, be that you are pointing your camera down towards some grass. Then the camera will start compensating for that green color of the grass with adding some magenta into the photo. So it becomes more of a neutral color. If you suddenly take the camera up and start photographing, those first photos, if the camera haven't had time to change back and measure the scene, will have a magenta tint. And that can ruin your photos if you're shooting JPEG. You can compensate for it if you're shooting RAW, but be aware of that. So that is generally the biggest issue with shooting in auto white balance, or simply that it measures the scene wrong and you want another look. That is also a thing, because white balance is a creative tool. Since it is winter, I will probably make my photo a little bit colder, a little bit more bluish than warmish, so that the whites will have a little bit of a colder tone to them. So right here you can see what the big difference is between editing a JPEG file and editing a RAW file. So this is an extreme example where I've completely offset the temperature of the photo, so it's like very, very cold. However, in this RAW photo, you can see I can simply just bring up the temperature and the colors look somewhat natural. I can even just use the color picker and choose the snow right here. It warms it up a little bit. I can bring it back, and from here I can simply just edit the photo to my liking, maybe even bring down the temperature a bit to make it a little bit colder, as I talked about. However, if I do the same with the JPEG file, you can even see the temperature is no longer on the Kelvin scale, it's simply just values. And if I bring up the temperature here, yes, I make it more white, I compensate for the blues, but there's still a lot of cyans in the snow right here. Try to bring it down, and yeah, the colors are just off. If I use the color picker on the roof, you can see how it just brings in way too much magenta. Then I have to bring down the tint and try to find the balance. It's just not at all the same. I can even try and take my RAW photo and synchronize the two files, check all, and you can see how the JPEG file simply just does not have the color range, the information range of the RAW photo. And this is why you, especially as a landscape photographer, always want to photograph in RAW, and why if you do photograph in RAW, don't really have to overthink white balance. If you don't nail it in the field, you can always fix it a little bit afterwards in post-processing, which I usually also do. And if you struggle with editing your photos, right now my Black Friday sale is coming to an end, but you can still get the entire $100 off my huge post-processing course. In this course, I cover all my editing techniques from the most basic, introducing you to the programs, all the way through to advanced blending. A few examples is cleaning your photos properly, dodging and burning, editing and blending with luminosity masks, focal length blending, working with atmosphere and glow, and much, much, much more. As mentioned, you can use the coupon code and link in the description of the video to get $100 off. So totally bonus. I was driving towards another place, but then I came past this little lake area where it was foggy. So I have to jump on it, like winter fog, and it's only like, it's afternoon. Usually you get fog in the morning here, but now it's afternoon, so that is nice. Definitely see if I can find something to shoot here. Shouldn't be a problem. So I have found a little bird swimming around out on the lake. Since it's so foggy, admittedly the Hasselblad right here has a hard time focusing and catching focus, and I don't really feel comfortable yet manually focusing. I can't see if it's actually in focus, but I think I managed to get a few photos with the bird on the water and maybe a little bit of like landscape in the background. So I've walked a little bit further along the lake and I found this little piece of water here, and you can see up behind me the very, very, very last part of the sun going down behind the cloud. Just before I had a little bit of the trees on the other side coming out. Looked really, really nice. So I had the sun, the reflection of the sun and the light there, and I had a little duck or grebe coming into the scene that looked really cool. I have put the camera up over here, put on my 35 to 75 millimeter, and then I composed the photo something like this. So because of the fog and the light and the sun coming down, I've decided to use a cloudy white balance. It resembles what I see the best. So in that way, when I come back to the computer, then I can decide, okay, is this how I want it to look as I saw it, or do I want to change the color a little bit? I absolutely love these sunset foggy photos. These kind of photos are just everything I want to photograph when I'm photographing in Denmark. The atmosphere, the winter mood, the colors, the golden light. And I really like how I decided on location not just to rely on the reflection, but also bring in some of those reeds as foregrounds to create extra depth in the photo. And if you want to learn much more about composition and depth and balance and how to choose your subjects and where to place the subjects in relation to the light in the scene, be sure to get my ebooks on composition. With minimal text and tons of examples, they're super easy to read and I get to the point fast. In the last chapter, I summarize everything I've covered in the ebook with several different examples. There are links to both the free light versions down in the description of the video, along with the full versions too. So I've come to this little cluster of trees and it's just super minimal with the low fog that separates the trees throughout the scene. Yet I have blue sky with a few clouds in it. So I'm not sure how I'm going to edit this one. I think this could actually work well as a black and white because I still have clouds that help separate the trees from the sky. Yet I can make the sky really dark. I'm not sure. I have put on the wide angle lens and I'm zooming in and out all the time. I can't decide which focal length I prefer. So I'm just taking a whole lot and then I'm just making a decision when I come back home. Also in regard to the white balance, again, auto white balance, I'll just let the camera measure that one. It doesn't really matter, especially if I'm going to turn it black and white. I rarely do black and white photos because for me black and white photos just do not have that much longevity. But let me know down in the comments of this video. Do you like the black and white photos? Do you prefer the yellow house photos or do you prefer the winter lake photos in this video? I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to benefit from the Black Friday sale. And if you want to learn more about composition, be sure to get my ebooks. See you next time.